Christians have lived in Georgia for nearly 2,000 years. An hour's drive from the Georgian capital Tbilisi stands one of the oldest churches in the country, the 5th century Basilica of Bonisi Sioni. The Lutheran bishop in Georgia, Hans-Joachim Kirilin, loves this Orthodox church. As the plaques on the wall proudly proclaim, it was built in the 5th century, between 478 and 493. Bishop Kirilin was born in the German port city of Hamburg. After studying law and history, he entered the German diplomatic service, but went back to university in his 40s to study theology. He became a minister and was appointed the Lutheran Bishop of Georgia in 2009. Always interested in history, he continues to pursue that passion in his new home. There have been Christians living in this country for nearly 2,000 years, but the first Protestants only came here in the early 19th century. They were pietists from southern Germany, fleeing famine and the devastation of the Napoleonic Wars. Their descendants are Bishop Kirilin's parishioners. Georgia lies on the border of Europe and Asia. It has a population of just 4.5 million. More than 80% of Georgians belong to the Orthodox Church, and there are no more than 2,000 Lutherans here. The Lutherans' roots go back to German immigrants from Württemberg. Several hundred German families were resettled here by Tsar Alexander in the early 19th century. In addition to political and economic factors, they were also driven by their belief that the world was about to come to an end. Bishop Kirilin is realistic about the relations between his fellow Lutherans and the majority Orthodox faith.
It's not a question of physical separation, but spiritual distance, which is much worse. Each group tries to defend its own position and exaggerate its own importance. And when a church is large and views itself as the national religion, then all the more. That wasn't possible during the communist era because the church didn't have this function. Relations between the churches were very amicable then because they suffered together. When the pressures of the communist era eased, however, they put pressure on each other because the common enemy was gone. When they share the status of a minority because most of the population has no interest in the church, as is the case in Germany, they'll pull together again. For the time being, however, most Georgians are devout Orthodox. They support their church. So it has no reason to behave kindly and graciously to other denominations. That's simply a law of physics.
Bishop Kirilin takes a long view of church politics. These walls have been standing for 1,500 years. They put current conflicts into perspective. The Lutheran community is based in the middle of the capital, Tbilisi. Old, almost forgotten gravestones bear witness to the history of Protestantism in Georgia. Just 10 years ago, a new community center was built here on the property. Today, the parish is holding a church bazaar in the garden. It's a chance for people to get to know each other, and Bishop Kirilin also has invited his Orthodox neighbors. The memorial plaque on the church wall pays tribute to the theologian Gerd Hummel. He sold his home in Germany in 1998, and with the help of additional donations, built this church and the community center, as well as a home for senior citizens and a welfare center. Hummel was named the first bishop of the Lutheran Church in Georgia in 1999. These social gatherings are also occasions to remember Gerd Hummel, who died in 2004. Honey, homemade wine, and fruit juices are on sale at the small stands. The parish is poor, and every donation, however small, helps. The church bazaar seems mainly to attract the older generation. The atmosphere is relaxed and friendly. Although the parish doesn't have much cause to celebrate financially, the bishop thinks a reason should be found at least once a year.
We could also have a spring festival. That's traditional in Georgia, although not really in our community. We held one last year for the first time, but we also had a specific reason. It coincided with the 10th anniversary of the founding of our social welfare organization.
Judging from the laughter and chatter in the kitchen, the women preparing the food are certainly having a good time. Waffles, cakes, cookies, and sugary creations are all on sale at the bazaar.
The idea, of course, is to raise a bit of money, but we'll be happy enough if we don't make a loss. In fact, it's often church workers who have a small income or a bit of money of their own who come from Germany, who buy the goods. So we're not making a profit.
Который сейчас продается видом акционная продажа.
The bishop has come up with something special today, an American auction.
Кто еще хочет? На 20 Петри.
The nicest item up for auction is a second-hand lambskin coat. The bishop collects the bids in a basket.
Кто последний? Вы последний.
A young girl wants the coat for her brother. When it appears that she's run out of money, others step in to help her by tossing money in the basket on her behalf.
Еще первый. Или на третий. Вот.
Her bid wins, and she gets the warm coat for her brother, thanks to the community.
Вот. Надо ей одевать.
Покажись.
Надо снимку сделать. Прекращаем пока. Прекращаем пока. И сейчас посмотрим, что...
The new church building marked a fresh start for the Lutherans in Georgia. The descendants of Germans were persecuted here during the Second World War and discriminated against in the decades following. It was only in 1991, thanks to Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms in the Soviet Union, that the tiny community was able to congregate again. Tbilisi has always been home to a variety of religions. Orthodox Christians have lived alongside Catholics, Muslims, and Jews. Various places of worship bear witness to this tradition of tolerance. But in 1931, all religious services and Christian gatherings were forbidden in the Soviet Republic of Georgia. The communists subsequently destroyed many church buildings. Those of the ethnic German community were especially targeted, but many historical buildings did survive that grim period. They are now landmarks in the 1,500-year-old city. German immigrants founded the town of Katharinenfeld in 1824. Today it's called Bolnice. A lively Protestant community once flourished here. They built a large church, which they dedicated to the apostles Peter and Paul. The dictator, Joseph Stalin, had the cathedral broken down in 1946 and converted the building into a gym. But the German legacy is still visible in some of the architecture here. Like a country doctor doing his rounds, Bishop Kiderlen visits his scattered flock in their homes and holds services in their living rooms. He welcomes the congregation as they arrive for the service. The furniture has been rearranged. Candles have been lit on a table that serves as a makeshift altar. The choir is accompanied on a piano. The bishop conducts the service in German. For the non-German speakers in the congregation, his words are repeated in Georgian. But many people here speak German, and some are very proud of their German roots. They fondly remember the period before the Second World War and before Stalin's destruction of the churches.
I was still a child. Well, a teenager, really. How beautiful it was in our church on that day. Indescribably beautiful. Unimaginable. You should have seen it. It was magnificent. It was a huge celebration for everybody. Children and adults, old and young, the sick and the healthy, everyone was there. The people here are very mixed. They speak 5 languages: Georgian, Armenian, Russian, German, Azerbaijani.
Azerbaijani. Well, not so much Azerbaijani. But they speak Azerbaijani at the market.
Every day, the poor and needy can get a hot meal at the parish welfare center. Most of those who come here have known each other for years. The cooks are volunteers. They prepare 130 hot meals each lunchtime. During the summer months, the number of guests is smaller. When the weather gets colder, the number rises and the welfare center is stretched to its limits. It has to make provisions for those bottlenecks, which it can only do by keeping a tight budget. That's why meat is served here only twice a week. The recipients feel as if they were members of a large family. The staple is always a nourishing soup. Potatoes are added, sometimes a bit of meat, and some vegetables. A number of meals also leave the center each day, destined for relatives at home. This man comes every day to collect food for his wife, who is ill, and for his mother. He can't afford to pay for it. Taking care not to spill or drop anything, he stacks the soup, potatoes, and bread. Bread is an essential part of any meal in Georgia. "85% of families in this country are living at the subsistence level. It's especially hard for the elderly and the unemployed. Many pensioners receive just 20 euros a month, not enough to survive. In the kitchen, it's the end of another day's work. The dishes are washed by hand. In Georgia, paying for labor is cheaper than buying a dishwasher. The bookkeeping is done every day. A contribution is expected from anyone who can spare a little cash. Every little bit helps. 50 cents for a meal or for medical treatment. Dr. Ketevan Taktakishvili offers medical attention free of charge.
Most of my patients suffer from depression, sclerosis, epilepsy, or hypertension. They have problems with blood pressure, their digestive systems, and sugar diabetes. Contrary to what you might think, there isn't much alcoholism here. The people are sick because they're hungry.
Christiana Hummel, the widow of Pastor Gerd Hummel, is in charge of the welfare center. She and Ludmila Meyer, who runs the office, do the bookkeeping together. The small donations received are balanced against the expenses. Resources are severely limited. They discuss whether mineral water or tea would be cheaper. They decide on tea. Christiana Hummel has been struggling with this difficult situation for more than 10 years.
We've performed confirmations, christenings, and Eucharist using a soup tureen. There wasn't anything else available. Nothing. The people brought whatever they thought appropriate for the occasion, a tablecloth or something similar, and candles from home. It was really very impressive. Of course, the church in Germany wasn't immediately in favor of the Georgian project, the building of a church here, because it hadn't initiated the project. My husband did it all on his own.
The bells of Pastor Hummel's church summon the faithful to Sunday service. Today, the largest bell is silent, out of consideration for the neighbors. Bishop Kirilin doesn't want unnecessary friction. The bishop fulfills many pastoral duties. Before the service, he's available to those who want to speak to him. Elderly and frail parishioners are collected and brought to church in a minibus. People come to church not just for the service, but also for the social contact. the sense of community, and a chance to see old friends. Times are hard, and the kindness people experience at church wins their trust.
The church building is simple and austere. But some Georgians experience a sense of liberation when they enter. It's so wonderfully light and airy. I think we should maintain that. It's important for us to teach the people what we believe, what the foundation is for the things we talk about and discuss. It isn't a monolithic structure, unchanged since the 4th century. It can always change in a particular period.
Orthodox Christians tend to view Protestantism as cold and austere.
It's not that we Lutherans are ascetic. We simply have a more intellectual approach to faith. We place reading the Bible at the center and encourage each individual to think about it, to find his faith and confirm it through the Bible. Church authorities don't prescribe in detail what the individual should believe. The difference between Orthodoxy and Lutheranism lies mainly in their respective concepts of authority.
The Georgian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest Christian communities, reputedly founded by the apostles themselves. Its authority today is respected by Azerbaijanis, Armenians, and even Catholics and Jews. But it has little influence on Lutherans in Georgia. Their inspiration comes from Martin Luther and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Germany. All Christians celebrate the Eucharist in memory of Jesus Christ, in thanksgiving for his death and resurrection. Protestant theology, however, emphasizes that God alone is active in the Eucharist and that it is not the Church's sacrifice. But the Lutheran community in Georgia is also dependent on people helping their fellow humans. Without material donations, they couldn't survive. God's help alone is not enough.
We're very dependent on donations from Germany. The pastor who re-established this church, Gerd Hummel, tried to structure that source of income. He created a foundation from which we now receive interest and payments. We also get funds from the Lutheran Church in Württemberg, but not all that much. And then we have partner parishes in Germany, so we have a lot of financial support. But a troubling factor is that we ourselves don't generate much wealth, as they say. We can't even raise much through donations, membership dues, because our church members are very poor and have also got rather used to the fact, I have to note critically, that the money comes from outside.
After the service, the bishop exchanges a few words with each churchgoer. Young people are also a priority for Bishop Kirilin. They need to be initiated into parish life. At the children's service, the young people are instructed in the basic ideas of a Protestant community and in the Christian faith. Through games and other activities, the youngest children are encouraged to participate in the prayer service and put together biblical scenes. Finally, they sing together before going their separate ways. The city of Tbilisi on the ancient Silk Road between Asia and Europe is an emerging modern capital. In fact, the whole of Georgian society is in rapid transition. Hopefully, future generations will continue their cultural legacy and preserve their Christian traditions.